Hello crafty friends, I'm Lean from Studio Kato and I'm so happy you're joining me again today for another video. I'm back with another Jane's Doodles video, which should be the second one today, and I'm using the Iris stamp set today. This is a design that I saw on Jennifer McGuire's channel. It is a very old video, but I'll make sure to link it below. Now, this card is 2 card bases in one, and I'm folding a tiny one that was 3 inches by 4 1/4 inch. And this one is an A2 sized card base out of vellum. This is very heavyweight vellum, but it's very fragile, so I had to score it, and even then you don't want to fold it back and forth too much or it might break. Now I want to stamp my image on my inside card, so on the white card, but I also want to stamp it in the same exact spot on the vellum card front. So I'm temporarily adhering the inside white card on the inside of the vellum card and placing that in my Misti so I know where to stamp each time. So with that white card lined up nice and center, I know it will line up beautifully once I'm done stamping everything and putting everything together. So this is the stamp set. This is the Iris stamp set by Jane's Doodles. There are beautiful iris images in there, and I am using the largest one. On the white card, I am going to stamp this in ink on 3 no line coloring ink. So this is fade out ink, and it will fade out once you color over it. So it will be invisible once you've colored your image. I did mask off that little strip of vellum card on the inside there, so I know it won't stamp there. I do want to keep that inside very clean. So the no line coloring ink is very hard to see on the video. It's a little bit easier to see in real life, but still you have to tilt it in the light sometimes. And when I'm coloring these images, no line coloring, I always like to keep the stamp set next to me so I can refer to the lines there because they're a lot clearer on the stamp set. Now, to stamp on the vellum, I am actually going to emboss. So I prepped it very nicely with my anti-static powder, because vellum is more staticky than actual paper. So I'm stamping this in Versamark ink. Any clear embossing ink will work, and I'm going to stamp it twice to get a nice impression, and then I can heat emboss that with the metallic brass embossing batter by Wow. Now again, this vellum is particularly fragile. I don't know why, probably because it's such thick vellum. It's a very weird consistency. So it did bubble up a little bit when heat embossing it, and I just prepped it. I just put it under a bunch of patterned paper pads to weigh it down, and it restored very nicely. You can't really see the buckling in the end. Now I'm going to do this no line coloring, and I'm going to do it for the first time with markers. I don't have that many markers, and I'm also not very good at coloring with markers. So this was an experiment, and I did it on this card because I figured, well, it's going to be covered up with the vellum anyway, so it doesn't have to be perfect, and it's definitely not perfect, but I'm a little bit pleased with it anyway. I was very intimidated by this stamp. It looks very complicated for some reason, but it does work out beautifully in the end. I did look up some images of irises to figure out the coloring for this, and then I decided not to replicate those images I found. Irises are a little bit more purple, I think. This is just blue because I don't really have good purple markers for this. And I put some yellow in there as well, just to get that pop of color. Now this card is very easy to put together, so the coloring definitely took up the most time. I didn't mind it. I had a lot of fun coloring this, but it took me, I think, 40 minutes just to color this image. So yeah, no line coloring does take me a lot of time, but it's worth it in the end. It's a very special card. I think this would work well for sympathy cards too. I don't really make those because I'm superstitious about them, I guess. I don't like making them if I don't need them. So yeah, This is just going to be a birthday card, just a really, really simple card. Again, I'm doing all my coloring now, and I want to talk over that because using music in YouTube videos is a little bit tricky with the copyright and stuff, so don't like doing that either, but I completely understand if you turn off my voice and just go look up some music. Now, the trick with no line coloring is contrast. You want a really dark shadow and a really light highlight, and that will give you a defined image. So I did go in after coloring everything in my blues with some cool grays and some blue grays in that larger flower there, just to get more definition in the shadows. I'm also not blending the yellow and the blue together very much. I'm blending it a little bit at the bottom, but at the top of the yellow bit, I am not blending it with the blue at all because I don't want green in my flower. I want the green to be in the stems and in the leaves and not in my petals. And I'm just going back in again with those gray markers to define the shadows a little bit more, and that's going to be it for this coloring. And that's most of the work finished for this card. Now, this is alcohol markers on Clairefontaine DCP 250 GSM cardstock, which works beautifully, but it does bleed through a little bit on the inside. I don't mind that. If you do, just work on a separate panel for your coloring and put it on the inside card later. I lined the colored image up with the embossed image on the vellum. I put some temporary adhesive, very little, because it's not that temporary. I put some temporary adhesive on the inside card just to hold it in place. Then put double-sided adhesive on the inside card to adhere it to the back of the vellum card. I am only going to adhere it to the back of the vellum card so you can open it up and see that nice colored image on the front as well. I do want to hide that adhesive, so I am going to put another panel of white cardstock on the back of my card, just cutting it to 3 and 4 1/4 inches again, and using double-sided adhesive again. I don't like using double-sided adhesive that much. I think glue is much easier, but vellum tends to warp, and especially with this tricky vellum, I didn't want to risk it, so I just used double-sided adhesive. And I'm just going to line that up with the panel on the inside, and that finishes off my card. Almost. I am going to add a sentiment to this. I thought it was a little bit empty, so I'm going to use a sentiment from that same Iris stamp set by Jane's Doodles, and I'm going to emboss that as well with the Wow Brass Metallic or Metallic Brass embossing powder. Again, I'm very careful when heat setting this, so it doesn't warp further. And then I'm going to also make a vellum envelope because I couldn't get enough of vellum today. I am using some blue vellum. It is see-through, but it has a shiny finish on one side and a chalky finish on the other. And I'm working on the shiny side, so I mean, it's just pretty. I am stamping one of the smaller images from the Iris stamp set on the front flap of the card, and I'm going to use that same embossing powder on there. And this is almost going to look like a seal or a wax seal on the envelope. It's not going to look like a wax seal, but that's the idea anyway. I'm going to adhere this together with some Barely Art Precision Craft glue. And you are going to see that adhesive in the end, but it's just the envelope. It's fine. I love the blue because it matches the blue of the iris on my card, and I love that gold touch on the envelope as well. It's a very classy card, very much not like the stuff I usually make, but I really like making it. I like going out of my comfort zone like this. Now, I told you before, this was inspired by a design Jennifer McGuire did. She didn't do no-line coloring, she worked with layering stamps, so that's also an option, and I will make sure to link that video below. And there it is, my finished card for today. I really love it, and I really like this Iris stamp set by Jane's Doodles, even though I was very intimidated for coloring it. I hope you like it too. If you did, make sure to leave a thumbs up on this video and leave your thoughts in the comments below. I would love to read them. You can also subscribe to my channel if you want to see more of my videos, and if you want to see more Jane's Doodles videos, I will make sure to link a playlist just for Jane's Doodles inspired content on this video, so check that out as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.